All right, blessings, everyone. Okay, I'm just going to say here that I'm going to now shy away from this video for now, anyway. And I want to thank you, Jean, for being right where you were supposed to be and doing your due diligence. It was really a good video. It was a good catch. I thought it was anyway, and I really learned a lot from it, and I picked up a lot of interesting stuff and I was able to discern properly, and I really feel that we need to work together on this, and we need to respond properly to one another, and we need to keep the communication going. That we don't just fall away, because it's very easy to do that, and it's harder for us to uh, stay together, because there's a lot of this familiar spirits and things happening within our own lives that we can't share with others, or we just can't do it, and we get tired, and we can get a little edgy, and so we need to be very clear with one another, whether that be email or maybe a little something here and there thrown into one video or the other. But I want to thank you for this. I really do. And I trust what you're doing here. I trust in it. I believe in you, and I do stand by you in what you do. And I believe that you can discern like everyone else, but we all, like everyone else, we get caught up and we get caught in the flesh. And sometimes we just don't realize it until we're in it. But that's what we need brothers and sisters for. And taking opportunity to use it in a good way, in a lesson. Like this is something that needs to be seen, and it's better coming from a brother and sister than a stranger. Like when I saw that, when you gave the pictures of the moon dog and all that stuff about the dog, and I I couldn't help but think about the other brother's video of the star, and what he pulled out of that star was that dog, and they all seem to be lab dogs, and amazing to me. It's just amazing to me, and it's on a daily basis. I don't foresee this. I don't, when I see it, I'm seeing it like I'm talking to you now. I'm seeing it for the first time too, you know. Yeah. Like I couldn't believe that, how the connection of me watching what was going on in the valley, and how the Prime Minister here, Trudeau, is talking about a dog whistle, okay? And you came out with these pictures of the mocking dog, which goes right hand in hand with the thumbnail. Okay, you had no idea. That was put out beforehand. So I'm looking at this and I'm going, oh, this is, the mocking dog, and putting this dog together, you know. Oh, I'm still shaking my head about this. And they all seem to be labs. Every one of them. The one I didn't even know that you had one in your video until I was working on this one here, and the one I just did, and I was working on that as I was working. That's when I noticed that you had the. That's why I seem so surprised when I see the dog. Like really, like I mean, I was really taken by that because I didn't see it the first time and the second time, you know, and yeah. Like seriously, this one here, like this was taken in 2017. To me, that looks like a lab. and our prime minister talking about him, a prime minister blowing the dog whistle, spiritually speaking.
Fear is a dangerous thing. Once stoked, whether by a judge from the bench or a prime minister with a dog whistle, there is no way to predict where it will end. These are troubling times. Across Canada, and especially in my home province, Canadians are being encouraged by their government to be fearful of one another. For me, it is both unconscionable and a real threat to Canadian liberty.
Okay, I want to shift now to Daniel, okay? And I'm just going to read this out and then I'll continue. And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the men that were with me saw not the vision, but a great quaking fell upon them, so that they fled to hide themselves. Therefore I was left alone and saw this great vision, and there remained no strength in me. For my cominglessness was turned in me into corruption, and I retained no strength. Yet I heard the voice of his words, and when I heard the voice of his words, then was I in a deep sleep on my face towards the ground. And behold, a hand touched me, which set me upon my knees and upon my palms of my hands. And he said unto me, O Daniel, a man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak unto thee, and stand upright, for unto thee am I now sent. And when he had spoken these words unto me, I stood trembling. Then said he unto me, Fear not, Daniel, for from the first day that thou didst set thy heart to understand and to chastise thyself before thy God, thy words were heard, and I am come for thy words. But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. But lo, Michael, one of the chief priests or princes, came to help me, and I remained there with the kings of Persia. Now I am come to make thee understand what shall befall thy people in the latter days, for yet the vision is for many days. And here we are. So here, Gabriel's telling Daniel that he was resisted by the demons called the Prince of Persia until Michael was able to assist him. So here Daniel, we learn from Daniel here that angels and demons fight battles over the souls of men and nation, and that demons resist angels that try to prevent them from doing God's bidding. Okay, so as I was reading Daniel, I remembered this. This is Terto, Terto plan, Plan. And I remembered this, and I think you'll remember it too. I played this out a few times before. So here, what we're looking at is Jonathan Kleck's video right here. This was done and released on December the 7th. And Terto here broke it down to Revelations 12:7. So I'm just going to read this out. And there was a war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought against the angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Fallen angels are brought down from bringing down, cast down. Jonathan Kleck's quote here, I took the virgin and I turned it, which is spirit, up. Satan, your time is up. So here at the 59 mark and 7 seconds on his original video, you will see this statement here. his quote. I took the virgin and I turned it up, which is it meaning spirit. Satan, your time is up. So I'm sure you'll remember this.
I took the virgin and I turned it up. Satan, your time is up. Pops in the mouse ring, yes. Pop dead nurse down in his roof, it gets done. Pops in the mouse ring, yes. Pop dead nurse down in his roof, it gets done.
Sorry about that. Okay.
Yes, we can. 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 Thank you, say. 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 Thank you, say.
I'm just going to say there's going to be no printout here as he tells you who he is. There's going to be nothing written out here.
I am the spirit of a fallen angel inside a human body. I am a Bene Elohim. You more data than you'll be able to argue with. You'll realize that's probably who you are too. That's probably who you are too. And you will know Bene Elohim. And when I show you what I have to show you on this hieroglyph, and when I have to show you more data than you'll be able to argue with, you'll realize that's probably who you are too. That's probably who you are too. And you will not escape what's coming from you.
For part, this is your half, right? Now, I uploaded this video and I ran, like I hit the road. And what happened was my daughter and I were going to see a surgeon to see whether we could save her foot. They were talking about amputation. And so we were on our way to find out whether, they could save it or not. So it was the following morning, which was Monday morning. We ended up too early. There was nothing opened, and I left early just to give myself some time to get lost, right? To find the place. And so we were really early, and we ended up in a parking lot. And I'm just going to show the rest of that. And it just seemed to all come together, and I just shook my head. I couldn't believe what it was that I was looking at. So this would be coming from your part of that video, okay? Of the last video. So here we go. This is I just giving a reminder here.
We're all angels. Then when we got flipped, we were like, we're all angels. My Elohim. It's literally saying my angels. Does that make sense? Kind of like we're all kind of Jonathan Kleck's angels because he is the angel of the Church of Philadelphia. We're all angels. My Elohim. It's literally saying my angels. Does that make sense? Kind of like we're all kind of Jonathan Kleck's angels because he is the angel of the Church of Philadelphia.
And so here I'm sitting in a parking lot with my daughter, and this is what I'm looking at. Okay, this is what I'm looking at here. All right, so I just uploaded, and this is what I'm seeing here. Okay, the I in Boulevard, Adam. Okay, and then beside this, let's bring it down. And what do we see? Foot. Okay, so here we have what he was talking about, and here I am looking at this, and you're not going to believe what was beside this. Okay, so I'm sitting in the car taking my pictures, and this is what I see right beside. It's a restaurant, and look what it's called. Look at the G's backwards.
We think so. We think so. We think so.
Okay, so I did that part of that video in 2020, September 12th. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so here what I'm going to do is I'm pointing again at Gene Revel, and this is his channel. This was a video that he did. Jonathan Kleck is a proven false prophet, and this video leaves no doubt. Part 1 of 2. This was done in 2021. Now this I found looking for something else, another video, another clip, and this was such a win for me, and I want to thank you again, Gene, for being right where you were supposed to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play this out, and then I'll just bring it further down the road. Okay, so I'll add in a little bit. So here we go.
Because I know that I'm going to be hearing all about the lots that were cast by the apostles in the book of Acts. You know, when they were trying to figure out who was going to be the replacement apostle for Judas after he went and committed suicide. It was between two candidates by the name of Justus and Matthias. Act 1:23. And they appointed two, Joseph called Barsabbas, who was surnamed Justus, and Matthias. And they prayed and said, Thou, Lord, which knowest the hearts of all men, show whether of these two thou hast chosen, that he may take part of this ministry and apostleship, from which Judas by transgression fell, that he might go to his own place. And they gave forth their lots, and the lot fell upon Matthias, and he was numbered with the 11 apostles. And you can see that the word lot is G2819. And that means through the idea of using bits of wood, etc., for purpose, a die for drawing chances. But do you want to know something? What Kleck has been telling everybody when he does his little voodoo book opening sessions is that a lot doesn't consist of opening his magical scroll that he says God tells him to use. No. According to his backup Bible that he always goes to, the concordance that is, casting lots consists of throwing dice or small pebbles to come up with some type of answer. And I have no idea how that even works, but that's what it is. It says nowhere in the Bible that it consists of opening some 800,000 word book and randomly picking some word off the page and then telling everybody that the word that they highlighted were directly from the throne room of God.
And I literally opened up a book, it said, from the throne room of God. And he said, here's what he said: the time is coming quickly, very quickly.
Nope. Not one place in the Bible does it say that this is how casting a lot happens. Because once again, this is called divination.
Hi, my name is Phyllis Curat. I am a Wiccan priestess and the founder of the art tradition. Divination is one of the great magics. It's one of the ways of paying attention. It's one of the ways of having the divine speak to you and guide you, and it's a wonderful way for casting spells. Divine, the root of divine is divi, which the great magics. It's one of the ways of paying attention. It's one of the ways of having the divine speak to you and guide you, and it's a wonderful way for casting spells. Divine, the root of divine is divi, which means deity, and oracle means the mouth of God or goddess. Divine, the root of divine is divi, which means deity, and oracle means the mouth of God or goddess. Divination is a way of engaging in dialogue with the sacred. It's not just a way for telling the future, although you can use it for that. There's astrology, there's bones, there's the reading of signs, there's a long list of, there are endless ways. There's a rock. You can take a rock and put yes on one side and no on the other. There are countless ways of engaging in divination, but the most important part of it, you have to master the vocabulary, you have to understand what is being communicated through the use of the symbols. But the most important thing to understand about what's being communicated is the source of the communication. But the most important thing to understand about what's being communicated is the source of the communication. Because the source of the communication is the same source of the energy that you use when you're doing magic or casting a spell. It's the divine. The most important part of it, you have to master the vocabulary, you have to understand what is being communicated through the use of the symbols. But the most important thing to understand about what's being communicated is the source of the communication. But the most important thing to understand about what's being communicated is the source of the communication. Because the source of the communication is the same source of the energy that you use when you're doing magic or casting a spell. It's the divine. That's what divination is. It's a means of engaging in dialogue with divinity. And it proves to you, it's the second chapter in witchcrafting, unlike most other books on Wicca, because it's a means of one, discovering that the universe is conscious and interactive and aware of a wider, broader pattern than you are, and capable of guiding you. You have a guidance system, a sacred, holy guidance system. The divine is available to you. You don't have to go through a priest or a priestess or anybody else to know what the sacred is and to know how to work with the sacred, how to be guided by it. Divination is the tool that enables you to have the guidance of the divine.
Sometimes when I really need an answer, I do what they did on the boat with Jonah. I cast a lot. I'm like, what do you want me to do? And I heard the Lord say, open that book on the counter. You see this book? I heard him say, open it. So I opened it.
But then collect.
Okay, so this is the video that I heard, and it was just a little clip where he was saying that he was taking away a blessing from a woman named Karen. And I caught that, and I thought to myself, because during this time I'm watching the blessings being poured over my daughter with the amputation, with the surgery, and coming out of it, and she's able to receive. And I just, that was like seeing my daughter for the first times, in such freedom, like she was liberated. And those were her words: I feel liberated, Mom. And I could see it, so I was in a really good place. And just at the corner there I could hear, this man say, well, I took away this woman's blessing. She had I think it was stage 4 cancer. And I'm thinking, what? And then I looked, and there was this word that she had circled. It was malleable. And then I saw and then I looked at the title and it said, "Who is hearing from the Lord God and who is not?" So I'm thinking, was this a challenge? This for everybody to come forward and say, who do you think is hearing God and who isn't? Well, I took that challenge, and just on that basis alone, this is where I went with the word malleable. Okay, this is where it took me. Iron, malleable. Okay, and then I went down here, and again, I've said this before, got questions. I go there every once in a while. I get caught up because it's just like this. It's got questions, and I think this gentleman here, this brother, we think a lot alike, and there's some things that we don't agree with, but there are some things that we do agree with. And so when I looked at this, I could not believe it when I looked into this. I really couldn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that with you, okay? Now, malleable iron, this is where he says here 1:3. Okay, so here it says, "Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Damascus, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they have thrushed Gilead with threshing instruments of iron." Okay, so iron. Now, iron is a farming implement drawn over grain to thrush it and cut it stalk. Now, God pictures Sinia, cruelty towards Gilead in the northeast Israel, as a threshing sledge being run over his people for their um, for their brutality. Now, they murdered pregnant women. The Ammonites would be judged for performing atrocities against Israel. Now, you're going to find this in 2 Kings 8:12 and 15:6. Okay, so I'm just going to go here to 2 1, and it says here, "Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Moab, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he burnt the bones of the king of Edom into lime." Okay. Okay, so here it's 2 Kings 8:12. Then Menahem smote Tippash and all that were therein, and the coasts thereof from Tirzar, because they opened not to him, therefore he smote it, and all the women therein that were with child he ripped up. He ripped up. What does that sound like? Again, here we have 2 Kings, no, that was 2 Kings 15:16. Here's 8:12. "And Hazael said, Why weepeth my Lord? And he answered, Because I know the evil that thou wilt do unto the children of Israel. Their strongholds wilt thou set afire, and the young men wilt thou slay with the sword, and will dash their children, and rip up their women with child." With child. Huh. Isn't that interesting? Because that sounds to me like abortion today.
I'd start with I'd be a murderer. I was involved in abortions when I was younger. I guess I'd start with I'd be a murderer. I was involved in abortions when I was younger. I'm a liar. I guess I'd start with I'd be a murderer. I was involved in abortions when I was younger.
Okay, and there's something I got to add to this, because I never saw this before until now. Again, this is the way it works, and it looks like that says Genesis 3:15, does it not? And I don't know, I think it says Daniel, maybe. This is the first time I'm seeing it, but here's Daniel. I didn't put it together until now. Interestingly. Thank you, Jesus.
Getting safe from exactly. Well, I'm going to show you, and I'm going to use this argument and all of these things that are on this wall, and you're welcome to argue with it, but what am I getting safe from exactly? And who saved me, and what he saved me from. And I'm here to tell you my Jesus was on a DNA rescue mission. Was on a DNA rescue mission.
Daemons, looking at the spiritual hierarchy, you've got the gods, you've got daemons who are essentially the messengers between the gods and humanity. Then you've got lesser spirits, right the way down to really basic ones, and then you've got dead humans. And so in the papyri, you have got procedures for dealing with each of these. And one of them is the peridros procedure, and that is designed to get a particular daemon to, I won't say work for you, but collaborate with you, to make it your own personal spirit. And this is a very important procedure, because if you manage to do a peridros procedure correctly, and you get a daemon who is happy to work with you, then a lot of questions can be answered. He can tell you what you should and should, or she can tell you what you should and shouldn't do. So a lot of questions can be answered. He can tell you what you should and should, or she can tell you what you should and shouldn't do. So this is one of the things to do first. And indeed, the main procedure for that actually happens in the first papyri in Betz. But that's quite useful to do. The medieval equivalent, of course, is a familiar spirit. If you can get a familiar spirit to do things for you, then this is very good. So the Egyptians are very good at breathing life into statues. I don't mean so they could move, but so that they had a certain amount of sentience and you could get answers from them.
Building the other night, it's been a couple weeks, and there's this little bar counter right here. You see it right here? Well, you see these two chairs? I was standing right back here in this corner, right here where this little red light is, without one of my sons came and sat down right here. And he's sitting right here. He's looking over at me right here. And when I glance over at him, he's staring at me like this, and he's going. And I look over at him and I lock eyes with him. And he looks at me and his voice changes and he says, I know that you can see me. I instantly knew. It was no different than Alex at Starbucks coming out of my own son. And I said, and I know that you know I can see you. And he said, yes. And the Kata Dynasteo has to come to an end. And it's time for the church to leave. And when I said that, he went, he's just going, and I felt the grace of God fill me up. And I looked at him and I said, it's okay. It's okay. I love you no matter what. I know you have to do what you have to do. And he just started, and he was just filled with rage and anxiety and just overwhelmed with grief. And he was like he just pumped up with weights. Just, and he was going, and he was just growling and crying and weeping, agonized. I know you have to do what you have to do, and I have to do what I have to do. I walked out the door. He walked out the door. I walked into my house. I was in my house. 3 or 4 minutes later, I don't know, 5 minutes later, he walks up to my sliding glass door and taps on it. He's carrying his guitar, and he walks in, and he's like, "Hey, Dad, check it out. You want to hear this new chord progression I did?" I was like, "Wow, that's really good. That's really good stuff." I said, "Well, I got stuff I got to go get doing. I love you." And I gave him a hug, kissed him. 100%. No lie.
You know,
Okay, I know it seems like I'm going back and forth a little bit here, but I'm going to bring you back here, and it's really, it's reaching out to this woman Karen, who Jonathan Kleck is talking about here. So what I'm going to do is I'll explain all of this later. I'm just going to play this out, and then we'll talk.
These things out, I called Karen, and the Lord had told me in front of Corey, and was Zach here? I was crying.
Yeah, I was here.
So Zach and Corey were here. Y'all were here, yes?
Yes.
Okay, they're sitting right here.
Yep.
The Lord told me, I want you to call Karen and tell her I am removing my blessings from her now. I was in tears, man. I was like, no, Lord, please don't. No. I was begging for Karen. Lord, please don't do it. Please. Please give her, like the chance. She already had all these chances. Saying she's sorry, doing videos. Oh, I'm so sorry. Johnny's who he says he is. But after she says, and y'all can go see the videos. I saved them. I downloaded them. I went to her channel and she's made them not available. They're not available. She's trying to hide them now. But y'all can go watch them on Vimeo. I'll post the links. So here she is, crocodile tears. Oh, I'm so sorry. And then she's talking out of both sides of her mouth. Double-mindedness. She went over to Alex's work and started telling Alex, Johnny's not my prophet. He's not my friend. He's not my pastor. I don't care what Johnny says. But, Johnny's he's everything he says he is. It's like big one. Is Johnny's either not your... And then she said directly to me, you didn't heal me, Johnny, the Lord did. I'm like, I know, I'm his servant. He sent me. And now he's telling me to tell you all your blessings are being removed. Is that when everything changed? There was a sign put up in front of the ark. I get some nonsense letter. Oh, we're selling the property at Ronderosa. Might need a place to stay.
Okay. Okay, I had to walk away, so I'm not quite sure where I left off here. So I just want to say this about the blessing and talk about this a little bit. So I'm just going to play this here for a minute.
And the Lord had told me in front of Corey, and was Zach here? I was crying.
Yeah, I was here.
So Zach and Corey were here. Y'all were here, yes?
Yes.
Okay, they're sitting right here.
Yep.
The Lord told me, I want you to call Karen and tell her I am removing my blessings from her now. I was in tears, man. I was like, no.
Like, seriously. And when I heard that, like, I'm going through and I'm watching my daughter going through her blessings and receiving blessings and, her feeling so liberated from, what was holding her down, which was the pain and, and the suffering that went with it, and then I hear this, and he's taking away someone's blessing, and I'm going, well, how does that work? Right? So again, we're looking at familiar spirits. We're looking at if, here's a familiar spirit that's working along with Jonathan Kleck. And I believe that I have shown that. Okay, so here he's taken away a blessing, and I'm watching God's glory and how he's just spilling his love all over us. Even the doctor was amazed at his own work. It was the best he's ever done. Everybody that was touched, everybody that went into the room, my daughter, it was like as though everybody was lifted. She lifted me. She carried me through it. Well, God did, mind you, but I mean, she was just glowing, And then here he's taken away. God said, this was just crazy. So what happened here is that I'm looking at curses and the blessings now. I'm thinking this is really coming at me with the thumbnail with Gene Revel's thumbnail. I mean, come on, this was against the blessing of what I was looking at, what I was seeing and receiving, and this was my daughter. I gave birth to her, and here she was losing her foot. And then you look at this thumbnail. How could I not see this as an attack? And it was against the blessing, against God. So here we have, which I was starting to believe, and going back to her last surgery and everything before for that, and how demonic it was. This was now becoming like I was looking at this as Jonathan Kleck, and it was a curse coming at me. And this is how I was starting to see this. So then I read this. I found this here. Okay. And it says, because they met you not with bread and with water in the way, when you came forth out of Egypt, and because they hired against thee Balaam, the son of Beor, of Pethor, of Mesopotamia, to curse thee. Nevertheless, the Lord thy God would not hearken unto Balaam, but the Lord thy God turned the curse into a blessing unto thee, because the Lord thy God loved thee. And this here is what I was seeing with my daughter. It was an absolute love. There was a lot of power behind this. Okay, because God loved thee, thou shalt not seek their peace nor their prosperity all the days forever. Thou shalt not abhor an Edomite, for he is thy brother. Thou shalt not harbor an Egyptian, because thou wast a stranger in his land. The children that are begotten of them shall enter into the congregation of the Lord in their third generation. Okay, I found this and I would just like to read this out. And I'm running out of time, so I'm going to probably end with this. Okay, so this has got questions. However, later on, Balaam figured out a way to get his reward from Balak. Balaam advised the Moabs on how to entice the people of Israel with prostitutes and idolatry. He could not curse Israel directly, so he came up with a plan for Israel to bring a curse upon themselves. Balak followed Balaam's advice, and Israel fell into sin, worshipping Baal and committing fornication with Mennonite women. For this, God plagued them, and 24,000 men died. Numbers chapter 25, 1 through 9, Deuteronomy 23, 3 through 6. Balaam's name and story became infamous, and he is referred to several times in the New Testament. Peter compares false teachers to Balaam, who loved the wages of wickedness. Jude echoes the sentiment associating Baal with the selling of one's soul for financial gain. Finally, Jesus speaks of Balaam when he warns of their sin. There are some among you who hold the teachings of Balaam, who taught Balak to entice the Israelites to sin so that they ate food and sacrificed to idols and committed sexual immorality. Revelations 2:14. Satan's tactics haven't changed at all that much. If he cannot curse God's people directly, he will try to backdoor approach, and idolatry and sexual immorality are his go-to temptations.
And open the dictionary and look at the word malleable. That's what I heard. And kindness, and she chose to leave out these words over here and make sure they weren't part of her photograph. And so what I did is I heard the Lord tell me, get a dictionary and open the dictionary and look at the word malleable. That's what I heard the Lord tell me. Is I heard the Lord tell me, get a dictionary and
open the dictionary and look at the word malleable. That's what I heard the Lord tell me to do. So I did. I went and looked at malleable, and he told me to walk it back, which is what I did. And I'm kind of going to the beginning. Here we go. I'm going to click through all, because the Lord told me this is what you should do. Go back and walk it back. And so I did. And when I was looking above, beyond malleable, there's the word malignant. There's the word malign. There's the word malicious. Now let's just walk it back. Okay. Then here is malfeasance, evil doing, malfeasance.
So he went to the dictionary, and here we went into what? Our faith? Iron teeth. Iron teeth. We're part of a threshing sledge, a farming implement drawn over grain to thresh it and cut the stalks. God pictures Syria's cruelty towards Gilead in northeast Israel as a threshing sledge being run over his people for the brutality. Syria is promised judgment. Murdered pregnant women, the Ammonites would be judged for performing atrocities against Israel. 2 Kings 8:12. And you could read, and Hazel said, "Why does my Lord weep?" He answered, "Because I know the evil that you will do to the people of Israel. You will set on the fire their fortresses, and you will kill their young men with the sword, and dash in pieces their little ones, and rip open their pregnant." Again, this would be abortion today. Okay? And at 15:16 says the same